I drew 100 ideas for a cozy hotel logo to see if my ideas would get better or worse. I think most of us can relate that when we're sketching logos and we're a couple in and we're finding an idea that we think could work, it's so tempting to jump straight into Illustrator and try to create a full identity from it. The problem is, the first ideas we come up with are usually the most obvious ones, which means other brands already own that trademark. So what would happen if I pushed myself to not pick any ideas until I've reached 100 sketches? For the last week, I've spent 1 or 2 hours every single day creating different sketches, and I have to admit it was a lot harder than I thought to come up with 100. I thought I would take you along so you can see how I come up with different ideas, how I push through and get more inspiration when I feel stuck, and at the end we're gonna have a look at all the 100 ideas. I'm gonna share which ones I think work well, which ones don't work so well, so that you know what to look for when you vet your own ideas. At the very end, I'm also gonna share my favorite 5 ideas, and I'm gonna ask you to vote for which one you want me to create a full identity for in a future video. The company we're designing for today is a cozy cottage hotel in the Scottish Highlands, and the name of it is Tulip and Twig. From hearing the brief, I already have a few different ideas, so I start by writing these down as a sort of kickoff point. At this stage, most of my ideas are centered around nature motifs like the tulip from the name, forest animals, more ornate letters like drop cap styles, and maybe some Celtic monograms or cozy letters that you could write and send home from your trip. I save all these to my mood board so I can refer back to them when I start sketching. If this was for a real client, we would have already done brand discovery, research, and official mood boards, and they would have picked a direction at this point. So if this sounds really interesting, I actually have both videos here on YouTube and guides in the shop. So I'm gonna make sure I link all of these down below in the description if that's something you want to dive into before you continue this video or afterwards. For now, we can jump straight into creating our sketches. I'm trying to be really open to all the different ideas I come up with, but I also want to make sure that this video is not just me exploring lots of variations of the same ideas. So I'm trying to come up with a new concept as much as I possibly can for every sketch, so that we have 100 different ideas at the end of this video. That means that you sometimes see me create some different variations and then I erase all the ones I don't want to keep and just keep the one that I think is the strongest. I don't know about you, but I always feel a little bit rusty as I'm getting started, even if I worked on another project just a week ago. These very first ideas feel a little bit too simple to me and maybe more like illustrations rather than logos. At this point, I decided to take a little break, and when I came back, I really tried to think about ways to combine imagery from the name with the feeling or hotel aspect. I think setting little prompts like this can be really helpful for avoiding getting stuck. So for example, you could say, okay, I'm going to create a couple ideas that use negative space, maybe a few monograms, or maybe a few more highly illustrated options, just so that you can kind of keep exploring different directions before you pick something that you really like. I quite like the idea of the tulip as the U, and I also like the idea of the house coming out from the tulip and the key. Normally I would probably move into Illustrator to just see if I could tweak these and what they would look like in different colors and lockups, but we're gonna keep going. It's the next day and I feel like yesterday was a pretty good start, but today the creative sparkle just is not on my side. I probably spent 2 hours, and even though I ended up with quite a few ideas, I'm honestly not really feeling any of them. The teapots and letter is kind of a cute idea, but they just don't feel very unique. And the other ideas were fun to try out, but I think they're not really going to give the right feeling of a cozy hotel. I'm happy I tried lots of ideas, but today just kind of felt like a walking through jam, to be honest. Next up was a bunch of ideas around incorporating the teas or using wild nature imagery. Cottagecore is one of my favorite styles to draw in, so birds, mushrooms, flowers, they all felt like a good fit. These sketches only took me about 45 minutes and I had a lot of fun creating them. Today was really feeling like I was on a roll. I really like the mushroom that become the lowercase t, but it might be a little bit too silly, and I think the same is true for the potion bottle with a little door. But I do think some of the more geometric Nordic style flowers could work. Finally, we have arrived at the last day, and today started slow. At this point, I started to feel so completely out of ideas, and I also felt like I kept forgetting what I already drew. I had used up all my inspiration from the mood board, but something quite exciting happened. So I decided to take a break to have a chat with Jeremy to see if he had any ideas. I also decided to look at some of our nice design books, and I even looked at graphics from different movie posters or different movies in general that had to do with hotels or kind of cozy cottage vibes. After a bit of a rough start, I actually had a really lovely ending to the 100 sketches, and I came up with lots of them that I really liked. So, having finished all 100 sketches, here are my highs and lows so that we can learn what to look out for in good ideas. Let's start with the lows. I won't lie, looking at only these ones makes me feel a bit bad, but to be honest, I shouldn't, because you have to just get all the ideas out in order to get to the good ones. Stakes at this point are so low, so don't be afraid to play around. The main reason these ideas don't work are actually pretty universal. They feel more like drawings than a memorable logo icon. They don't work very well at small scales, and some ideas are just a bit too abstract or confusing. Like this tulip that is blocking the rain, for example. I was thinking about the idea of a cozy shelter, but we probably don't want to think about rain when we plan our holiday. Then we have some ideas that I really like. These are all ideas that have one clear concept or core focus. There's a connection either to the company name or the cozy hotel experience without being too literal. Some are very symmetrical and some are not, but they still feel very balanced, like this one with the different flowers, for example. I also want to share a quick bonus category. And these were marks that are not necessarily a bad logo from a pure structural perspective, but they just don't fit the client. This happens all the time, and being able to spot which ones are gonna work and be on brand and work for the company's vision is a really important skill as a logo designer. For example, this word mark. I think with some polishing and tweaking, it might look really nice, but does it feel like the logo of a traditional cozy cottage? Definitely not. I think this logo would work better for a food or a fashion brand. So now that we've seen all the 100 sketches, when did I actually come up with most of the good ideas? Was it right at the beginning, right at the end? Let's have a look. Honestly, it was pretty fun to see because it was literally at every stage of the sketching process. I had days when I felt more rested and more creative, and some days when I just felt really stuck. The amount of time I spent really wasn't correlated with how many good ideas I came up with. And I think this is really showing you that sometimes it's important to just show up and try to just put the hours in, but at the same time, we need to also feel ourselves and notice, okay, I'm really tired today, maybe I need to do an admin task instead, and try to work on something more creative a little bit later when I've had a break or a different day. This is why we need time to work on any project, because we can't just be creative on demand like that. I'm not saying you have to do 100 sketches for every project, but if you're right now doing 10 or 20, maybe try to push yourself to try 50 and see what happens. So now I'm gonna hand it over to you. These are the 5 final ideas that I ended up with, a little bit cleaned up, And I would like you to vote. I'm adding a poll in the community tab over here on YouTube, and I'm also going to add it in my stories on Instagram. So head over and vote for which one you would like me to create a full visual identity for in a future video. Thank you so much for coming along, and let me know if this is something you would like to try out. I'm always super excited to hear your feedback and thoughts and approaches to design overall. Thank you so much for watching. Good luck with your projects and see you next time.